The desert was silent that night. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the kind that holds secrets. The wind moved slowly across the golden dunes, whispering stories that no one dared to remember. Above, the sky stretched endlessly, filled with stars that seemed too distant to care. And in the middle of that silence, stood Fazza. He wasn't a king in that moment. No crown. No guards. No palace walls. Just a man, and a memory he could never escape. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, as if he was waiting for someone who had already left a long time ago. Her. He never said her name out loud anymore. Not because he forgot it, but because it hurt too much to remember how it sounded when he used to whisper it. Once, there was laughter in his life. Once, the desert didn't feel empty. She came into his world like rain in a land that had forgotten what it meant to bloom. She wasn't royalty. She wasn't powerful. But she had something far greater, a heart that made everything feel alive. Fazza had everything. Wealth. Power. Respect. But none of it meant anything until she smiled. The first time he saw her, she was standing near the old marketplace, arguing with a shopkeeper over something small. Her voice was soft, but her words were strong. She didn't fear anyone. Not even him, though she didn't know who he was. And that's what made her different. For the first time, someone looked at him, not as a king, but as a man. He didn't speak to her that day. He just watched. And somehow, that was enough to change everything. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into moments he started living for. He found reasons to pass by that same street. Reasons to be where she was. Reasons that didn't make sense to anyone else, but meant everything to him. And slowly, without realizing it, he fell in love. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But quietly, deeply, completely. She never asked for anything. Not his name. Not his status. Not his world. She only asked one thing: why do you always look like you're hiding something? He didn't answer. Because how could he tell her that he was hiding a life she could never be part of? Fazza lived between two worlds. One where he was powerful. And one where he was free. And she belonged to the second one. That's why he never told her the truth. Because the moment she would know, everything would change. And he was right. The truth doesn't just reveal things. It breaks them. One evening, the sky was painted in shades of orange and gold. The sun was setting slowly, like it didn't want to leave. She was sitting on the sand, drawing meaningless patterns with her fingers. He sat beside her. For once, silent. Tell me something real, she said softly. What do you mean? He asked. She looked at him, directly into his eyes. Something you're afraid to say. His heart tightened. Because the only truth he feared was the one that would take her away. I'm afraid of losing something I never even had, he whispered. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. Then maybe you already lost it? He didn't understand at that moment. But he would. Soon. Very soon. The next day, she was gone. No goodbye. No explanation. No trace. Just gone. At first, he thought she would come back. He told himself it was temporary. He searched the streets, the marketplace, the places where her laughter once lived. But all he found was silence. Days turned into nights filled with restless thoughts. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped being the man everyone expected him to be. Because without her, none of it mattered. Finally, he found out the truth. She didn't leave because she wanted to. She left because she had to. She found out who he really was. A king. A man she could never belong to. A life she would only get lost in. So she chose to disappear, before she became a mistake in his perfect world. But what she didn't know was that she was the only thing that ever felt right. Fazza stood in the desert again, the same place where everything once felt alive. Now it felt like a graveyard of memories. The wind was colder. The stars felt further. And his here. He placed his hand over it, as if trying to hold something together that had already broken. I never wanted a crown, he whispered into the emptiness. I only wanted her. But the desert doesn't answer. It only listens. And sometimes, that's worse. Years passed. People still saw him as strong, as unbreakable. As a ruler who had everything. But no one saw the way his eyes searched every crowd. The way his silence carried weight. The way his heart still waited, for someone who was never coming back. Because some love stories don't end with closure. They end with questions. With silence. With memories that refuse to fade. And somewhere, far away, maybe she looked at the same sky. Maybe she remembered his voice. Maybe she felt the same pain. Or maybe, she learned how to forget. But Fazza never did. Because when love is real, it doesn't leave. Even when the person does. And in the quiet of the desert, under a sky full of stars, a king stood alone. Not because he had no one. But because the one he wanted, was no longer his to find. This channel is all about poetic stories and emotional content inspired by Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Fazza, the Crown Prince of Dubai. Here, you will find deep poetry, love stories, and powerful lines reflecting his royal lifestyle, silent strength, and emotional side. Backhand index pointing right. Please like and share and subscribe my channel for more beautiful poetry and poems. Red heart. Thanks for watching my videos.